you are both straight and ready.
So we're up at the start for a heat of the Remenham Challenge Cup between China on this near side and Australia on the far side of your picture. The Rowing Australia, they're going under the name of. These pictures are not live. This race started 4 minutes earlier. Was that the Chinese shouting out there?
Yeah, I umpired them the other day, and interestingly, for the first 6 strokes, they almost do a chant as they're coming through, and then they stop making the chant as they are getting into their rhythm, and it's a way, I think, of them to keep their breathing working together and keep the stroke working together. And as an opposition, it must be quite off-putting if you're not expecting it.
That's really, it put me off, actually. These Chinese are coached by Zhongde Shang, who cocks the Chinese 8 to a bronze medal ahead of the USA and ahead of Australia in the Tokyo Olympics. None of the women from that crew are in this boat, though. There is one Olympian, Shashin Lu, in the stroke seat. She's the rower closest to us with her sunnies on the top of her white cap. 13th in the women's double from the Shandong province. But it's Australia on the far side moving smoothly out, and this Chinese women's 8, they did race in World Cup 1, finished second, I think, to the Dutch, about 5 seconds behind. Don't quite have the pace of the 8 that took that bronze medal in the Olympics, Sarah.
Yeah, not at the moment. We've seen the Chinese squad come here in a fantastic form. Both their quads are through to the final and both raced extremely well today. I think this 8, those athletes will be behind, picked behind those sculling athletes, and they'll be getting the experience of Henley Royal Regatta here. And look here, we've got the Australian team. They've really used that part of the course to keep moving away, and they really are beginning to push these less experienced Chinese athletes away.
So we've got some fantastic athletes in this Australian boat. From the 4 that won in Poznan, Bronwyn Cox, Annabelle McIntyre, of course, she was in that crew that took gold in Tokyo. Lucy Stephan, another athlete in the 7 seat. She's only a little midget, really, just 70 kilos, but she is absolutely power-packed, Lucy Stephan. A country girl from New South Wales, and Katrina Werry in the stroke seat, also from the 4 that won in Poznan. And they put themselves together with Georgie Rowe and Georgie Patton, who were in that Olympic 8, I think, in Sydney. Georgie Rowe in the 4 seat, the surf boat rower. Discovered, I think, by John Keogh after a good ergo score, said, why don't you come and try rowing? You can see the really big power. You see, you know, Georgie Rowe, she's really quite tall without the white cap on in the 4 seat.
Yeah, and I had a nice catch-up with Coach John Keogh. He coached me in 2008 for the Beijing Olympics. Really had a good experience with him. Unfortunately, as an 8, we got ill during the games, but it's great to see him back in Australia, and you can see how much we've got the rain starting again here, Martin, so that those athletes will be getting wet, and John Keogh will be getting wet as well in that umpire's launch. But yes, it's good to see him out here and enjoying this campaign.
Xin Yulin, Sun in the 2 seat, Meng Yao Dai, Yushi Zhu, Chushan Zhang, Yihu Wu, Hairong Zhong, and we've already spoken of Shashin Lu and Li Ping Xiong, the 23-year-old in the Cox's seat. They are the Chinese women under pressure from the Australians.
And actually, looking now, those Chinese women, they're in touch. You can see in the 3/4 mile, we've got lane number 1, that one up and then 2 below it, and it's telling us there's a little bit about a quarter of a length of clear water in between. But I think the Chinese held on well in that section. Of course, there's a slight advantage for the crew on the Buckinghamshire at that point because they're away from the stream. This race is raced upstream. We don't have a huge amount of flow in the water at the moment, but it does mean that at different points in the lake on the race, the different lanes have an advantage and a disadvantage from that.
They look great, this Australian 8, really well drilled. The pair and the 4, the women out of the 8 and the 4 moving really well together. You've got someone like Annabelle McIntyre in that 5 seat really laying it down. You know you've got a really big advantage on the start line. And
blending a 4 with a pair and 2 other athletes can be a challenge. You know, you have had success in the 4. We know that they raced really well, but what do they have to give away from the 4 to get into an 8 and make that work as well as we're seeing this one work, Martin?
So that's Emma Fessy closest to us in the bow seat, and then a Price behind her, or in front of her, I guess I'd say behind her actually. Bronwyn Cox, Georgie Rowe in the 4 seat, Annabelle McIntyre, down the boat, the red-haired Georgia Patton, Lucy Stephan, Trina Werry, and Cox by Talia Barnett-Heppels, just 22 years of age. It's her first Henley. She's going to be loving this, Sarah.
Yeah, the rain's coming down, but you can still hear the cheer from the crowd. They've stayed out to see these two world-class crews. This is our top women's event, the Remenham Challenge Cup, and it's fantastic to see these Australian athletes and these Chinese athletes fighting it out.
So as we come past the grandstands, perhaps not quite as full as they were earlier, but plenty of noise coming from the banks. It's Rowing Australia coming up to the finish line to take this semi-final of the Remenham Challenge Cup ahead of the crew from China. They will go and race the British 8 in tomorrow's final. The Chinese come over the line now. I think that's a better performance than them than I saw in Belgrade in the first World Cup. I think they've closed up on the field and they're getting a bit better, that Chinese 8. Yeah,
agreed. And this, we'll see what the British 8 do against this Australian 8, but both fantastic crews. Look at that power off the start, Martin. It's beautiful to watch.
Great shot of Talia Barnett-Heppels there in the Cox's seat.